Charles lived in a village. He had a small farm where he grew crops. He owned 2 bulls. He worked alone. He lived with his wife, Sarah, and their daughter, Emma. Emma was now old enough to marry. Charles and Sarah were worried for her marriage. One evening, Charles returned from work. Emma brought him a glass of water.
Here, Papa. You must be tired.
Charles took the water and gave a small nod. After dinner, Sarah went into the kitchen to make tea. After a few minutes, she came back with tea. She handed a cup to Charles and sat down with her own. Sarah looked at Charles. He seemed quiet. Sarah asked,
What's wrong, Charles?
Charles sighed.
Sometimes I wish I had a son. But we don't.
Sarah looked surprised.
What are you saying? You love Emma. You always say she is enough.
Charles smiled slowly and said,
I do love her. But tonight, I don't know why I said that.
Then he stood up and walked to the bedroom. Sarah watched him go, worried and silent. A week later, Charles died in a road accident while returning from the market. Sarah and Emma were heartbroken. Neighbors came to comfort them. Days passed. Slowly, they returned to their routine. But their hearts stayed heavy. Sarah thought,
I understand now why you said that, Charles. If I had a son, I wouldn't worry. But with a daughter, what will I do?
She looked at Emma sadly. One evening, Sarah was staring at the floor. She said slowly,
How will we live now? With no one to help?
Emma heard her and quietly sat beside her, holding her hand.
Why are you worried? Mom? We will work on the farm. Let's start tomorrow.
Sarah looked at her daughter and nodded slowly. Early the next morning, Sarah and Emma woke up. Sarah warmed milk, made tea, and toasted some bread. She placed everything on the table with jam. After breakfast, they walked to the farm with the bulls. They started working. Emma filled a bucket with water and began to carry it across the field. Emma whispered,
It's heavy, but I can do it.
She took a few careful steps, then suddenly, her foot slipped on a stone hidden under the dry grass. Emma cried.
Ah! Mom!
She cried, falling hard to the ground. The bucket tipped, and water spilled everywhere. Sarah dropped her tool and ran to her.
Emma! What happened?
Emma cried.
My leg, it can't stand up.
Tears rolled down her cheeks. Sarah knelt beside her, gently touching her ankle. Sarah said,
Oh no. We are going home. You need rest.
Emma nodded with tears in her eyes. Sarah held her and helped her walk. Slowly, she took Emma home, leaving the farm work behind. That night, Sarah and Emma sat quietly. Sarah looked at Emma and said,
We can't do this farm work. It's too hard for us. We don't even have enough money to hire a servant.
Emma looked at her mother.
But Mom, how will we live then?
Sarah sighed.
Emma, it's hard to say. But we will have to work in others' homes. As maids.
Emma's eyes widened. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But then she said,
Okay, Mom.
Sarah and Emma went house to house asking for work. Soon, they found jobs in rich homes. But the pay was low. They could barely afford groceries and fodder for the bulls. Their clothes became old and faded. There was no rain for days. The sun burned the land. Fields began to dry. One evening, Emma walked home from work. She saw villagers standing on the way. One man said,
Rain still hasn't come. How will we water the crops?
Someone else added,
What can we even do now?
Emma felt a lump in her chest. She walked home, quiet and worried. That night, in the kitchen, Emma placed food on a plate.
Mom,
She said,
the farmers are worried. The rain isn't coming. Crops are drying.
Sarah nodded slowly.
Yes. We are suffering too. But it's worse for them.
Emma hesitated.
Mom, our farm and bulls are no use to us. We can sell them. Use the money to dig wells.
Sarah thought, then nodded.
Sure.
Emma smiled.
Thanks, Mom.
Sarah sold the farm and bulls. With that money, they hired laborers to dig wells for the village. One day, a young, rich man came to the village for charity. He stopped near the well where laborers were working. That afternoon, Emma walked by. The man offered her some clothes. Emma shook her head.
Thank you, sir. But I'm not a beggar.
She walked to the well and spoke with Sarah. The man watched, confused. He walked closer.
Wait. Are you the ones paying for the digging?
Sarah nodded. He looked surprised.
But you both look poor.
Sarah smiled faintly.
This is my daughter. My husband passed. We couldn't farm anymore. Emma said we should sell our land and bulls to dig wells for the farmers.
The man stared at Emma.
Your daughter has a golden heart. If you allow, I wish to marry her.
Sarah smiled gently. Emma looked down, shy and blushing. Moral: kindness and courage can change lives.